we have a little bit of a unique financial situation because we're actually a single family income that is dependent on seasonal work. So that means that we're only have one person making money, and we don't know when that one person is going to make money or if they're going to make money.
Yeah.
And to complicate things a little bit more, we also have the added risk of Ian being self-employed.
Yeah.
So pretty much like the most dangerous financial situation you could be in.
It was less scary when, you know, I was a single guy, and it's easier to, you know, like you don't have as much demands, you know, you make rent, you know, you eat bachelor lifestyle style, you know.
Ian actually lived in his truck for a period of time,
Yeah.
so.
Times weren't always good. And then now we have kids, and, you know, there's basically, we're a family of 4, plus we have 6 cats.
Well, or just, you know.
We have other obligations.
Yeah. All the costs of keeping a household running.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's no just having a light time and you can just make it through. It puts a lot more demands that every season has to produce a certain amount of money. I probably could have transitioned to another industry by now, but I really, like, my job takes me out into the forests of Western Canada, and I like, it's not even like work to me to be out in the forest. It's just, you know, it's fun. And when I don't do it for long periods of time, then I feel like I'm missing out on a part of me. So
yes, I don't have to feel sorry for Ian when he goes away to work, because he's having the time of his life. He's hanging out with dudes, murdering trees.
Yeah, and just like being in these super remote forest regions, you know, a lot of the coolest experiences of my life have been through my job. So, you know, I haven't been able to find that same rewarding experience in the city lifestyle. And so I just kept doing this thing that I've been doing. And over time, I've, you know, built up this wealth of experience so that when I do work, I'm actually fairly well compensated. And so I can, you know, make a living out of, you know, these short chunks of work. But, you know, it definitely, it took a long time because, you know, you know, you have a job, you know when your next paycheck is coming, right? We don't know when our paychecks are coming, ever. and
even when Ian works, we still can't even count on that money until the money's in the bank, because he's self-employed, there's been times that people just haven't paid him.
Yeah, and you know, you're going after these large companies. I used to be a slightly bigger company, but now I'm just an owner-operator. I'm no employees, like super simple, super scaled back. And it's been great for me because it's been like so hassle-free, and it's like I could always find work for one person. You know, when I was trying to find work for 6 people, it was a little bit more challenging to keep everybody going all the time, but
and 6 times as much stress.
Overhead and stress, and people coming to you and stuff, problems happening. But with just myself, it's like I know how to deal with everything, and it's just been very relaxing for me to scale back and be like that. But you know, if somebody were to not pay me, like, I don't have the resources to like go after them with lawyers super well or anything like that. So even when I do get work, I don't always get paid. So and when I do get paid, a lot of the companies, they'll be like, oh, well, after the job you bill us, and then you have to wait 90 days until we pay you. And so, you know, my whole work season is over the span of like kind of the start of December to the end of February, halfway through March. You know, that's the entire time. So you have to front an entire, you know, season's worth of costs before you even start seeing money in frequently. And so, you know, like there's lots of challenges to the way that our life is set up.
Yeah, Ian's business always has to have money.
Yeah.
Like, we can't, because of what he was just saying. So even when we take, like, a wage out of Ian's business, we can't leave his business empty if it's money that we're going to spend right away. If we take the money, but then we're able to loan the money back, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we always have to have savings for the business before we can even have savings for ourselves. One of the things, because we weren't always a single income, I stopped working when I was pregnant, or like I was working when I was pregnant, but
Yeah,
I stopped
when you had
working when
Leah.
I had Leah. And
Which is our oldest.
and I didn't go back to work after my maternity leave was over. We're Canadian, so we get a year of like paid employment insurance money. And I didn't go back to work at that time because Ian and I had been having discussions. We knew we wanted to have more kids. And if we had 2 kids, then the cost of daycare would more than take the amount of money that I was getting paid.
Serina also worked at a mall, and it was driving her insane having to deal with customer service. And
Well, and another aspect of it is because we don't know when Ian goes to work, and when he's gone completely. It's not like he's gone for a week and then he's back for a week. He's just gone to work. So because when he was home, I still had to go to work. On a lot of years, it didn't leave us a lot of time together.
Yeah.
So by me not working, it actually freed up more time for Ian to go away to work. That would then translate to us still having more time together when you know, add all those days that I'm away at work. When I stopped working, the deal was before I did that, we had to have a 1-year total spending emergency fund. So I think that we put aside $50,000.
I don't remember exactly.
We had a lot of money. We had enough money at that point in the bank, just cash, that if Ian didn't make any money for a year, we'd be 100% fine. And that's been like continuously the idea, that we always need to have that 1-year emergency fund. And it's a good thing that we did, because a couple years ago, like when I was pregnant with Sam, Ian actually had a year where he didn't work. Like he made like no money. And so we actually had to then dip into that 1-year emergency fund.
It was partially by choice, because when we first had Sam, well, like Serina had a difficulty.
I had a hard pregnancy.
So I was working some road work, crew work, in the summertime, and I left that. And then I didn't go back because Serina was not really able to pick up Leah at that time. She was like, physically she wasn't feeling very good. So I stayed with her through the duration of that pregnancy. And then I stayed home.
Like the end of the pregnancy.
Yeah. And then I stayed with the birth of our son, Sam. He was not really, like, he was very demanding for Serina's time. And so, I just stayed home, and I got a lot of time with Leah.
Yeah, and it was nice for you.
Yeah,
like, we made a decision to prioritize, like,
family time.
Some family time then. And part of it was because there almost always is a lot of work in the period that we were then like going into.
Yeah.
And then that winter there wasn't a lot of work.
No, there wasn't, because a lot of the work revolves around the oil patch in Alberta. I do forestry work, but a lot of it can overlap with the oil patch. And so spending was down. And that year I actually did go away for work for 2 months. And I went and did something more in the forestry side of things called fall and burn, which is like the ultimate heaven job for me.
The worst job.
It's so much fun. It's like
you cut down trees and burn them in areas that are so remote that you can't always bring a snowmobile into.
Yeah, so it'll be
It's
like
like go into the forest and like cause a forest fire is literally the job.
it was just like you and a buddy, so it's like a 2-man crew, and there's no like, you're not employees, you're subcontractor. You're just given this like group of trees that have been marked out by a surveyor like earlier in the year, and they're infested with the pine beetle, and they have to be like fell and chopped up into little chunks and then piled up into piles, and you have to burn the entire tree. And the work is extremely physical.
Okay, and so what's the rate? Because they pay you per tree.
Yeah.
So like,
It depends on the area you're in, but you get...
okay, say like an average, not like best case.
For the entire crew, you get $85 to $100 a tree.
So you get $85, and out of that,
You got to split it.
you got to split it, and then you got to pay for
your
like your
hotels and fuel
hotel
and
and your
stuff.
fuel and like the snowmobile to get you out there and your truck to like drive you
Yeah.
out there. And
But the goal is
it's just so much work for
the goal
like
is
so little
to
amount of money.
make $1,000 a day. So you are working your butt off, because these trees, they're not necessarily small trees. You can get into these areas of trees and they are just towers. They're 10-story tall trees that are like, you can't even wrap your arms around them, and every single bit of that tree you have to pile up. Other times you'll be in trees like this, and they'll be, you'll be making big money on those days, but you still have to fight through those days or you'll be hiking through snow that's so deep. Like, the days are ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous job you can imagine, and it's like it has to be one of the least safety conscious jobs, like in Canada, because Canada has like a pretty big work safe, like safety culture thing. But you get out there and you're just this like wild man, and so I love it. So I did do some of that work, and I had a couple.
The moral of the story is, I'm sitting at home while Ian's out there getting paid $85, half of $85 to knock down and burn an entire full tree, and I'm the one sitting at home trying to figure out how this budget's gonna possibly work.
As long as I'm healthy and I'm working, then things are pretty good. Like my trade as a faller, there's a very limited number of people that have the certifications that I do.
Yeah, because Ian doesn't work in
forestry as much.
exactly. Like Ian doesn't work in anything to do with logging.
Yeah.
It's always
like sometimes I will. There's a bit of crossover in the logging, but usually I'm running equipment when I'm on logging jobs.
Yeah, so he has qualifications to be a faller for the oil patch.
Yeah, it's more like,
so it's
they'll be like, we have to put a lot of helicopters in some area, so you need somebody to come in and fall all the dangerous trees in the area. Is more what I do. So I end up falling lots of like dead trees, dangerous trees, that type of thing is more what I'm.
But the other thing too is Ian's certification. It is something that's so specific that it's not like they could just get. They couldn't get a lumberjack to come do it. He has all these courses that are really specific to the industry that he's in.
Yeah.
Which makes it so there's so few people who keep up all the certifications. So it means that he's like one of only a handful of people who can do his job. So because of that, the rates are really high.
Yeah.
They'll pay him.
Look who I caught.
I see. In the same way that there are bad years, like the year that we used up our emergency fund, there's also really good years. And part of the reason why we purchased this place, I mean, I'd personally say the main reason why we purchased this place is because last year was one of Ian's best years.
Yeah.
Ian normally works for, like 4 to 6 months of the year. And last year he was working for 8 months, and a lot of that work was work that he was doing for his business, which pays the best.
Yeah.
And so because of that, at the end of the season, we had a big chunk of money, which actually made it so doing something like this became an option. And so, there is perks with the risk of, like it's a gamble. You can
it's
lose.
a little bit of a lotto ticket.
Yeah,
every year.
you can lose or you can win. And, you know, we definitely have lost, and then, you know, we had this winning year.
Yeah. Part of the reason that we think next year we'll be able to really do a lot of work on this farm is the fact that we're able to put 2 adults worth of labor focus like on it, right? Because once I get back from work in the late winter, early spring, like I don't have to worry about a you know, Monday to Friday type job. I can just put all my effort into building this farm, and we can have the resources to put into that farm. So that's one of the reasons why, like, if we can have another decent year this year, we'll be able to upgrade the property a ton and really, you know, get this thing, because, you know, realistically next year is still going to be a building, putting our you know, foot in the water.
Everything costs $1 million.
Yeah, and but the year after that, we're hoping that we can build this into like a secondary income, even if it's not comparable to our primary income.
Yeah, the goal right now is to be able to invest some of Ian's income into this property in the hopes that in the future it will then, like, you know, pay out an income.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and
Ian's
income,
work is so physical, it's not necessarily something that we want to depend on for a long, long time, because, you know, we're getting into that age where stuff can start happening, and
Yeah.
if he can't work, you know, we're in big trouble money-wise. But if we can get this property going and able to make us some money, then
Yeah.
we can transition away from Ian's work rather than having to do like an emergency stop.
And especially too focus on me only going away for the work that pays the best, and so I can be around for like the family more so, which has a lot of value. And you know, the farming stuff is something that we're super excited about, like building a farm, because these are all things that we, you know, talked about for years. You know, we used to live in a trailer and we had this tiny little yard, and we were still like,
well, we lived in the trailer specifically because when you have a trailer, you get a yard.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you're living in a basement suite.
And so even back then we were, you know, having all these ideas of things that we could do if we ever had property, and then, you know, we moved to a house and we had like a reasonable sized lot, and we turned all of it into garden and food production. And then now having like an acreage and, you know, farming zoning, the things that we can do are just like, you know, we can do all these things that we'd always dreamed about. So it's like, what else would you want to do with your time than build this farm up, right? So we're hoping that it can be like a 2 birds, 1 stone thing where we can make
it's what
some income.
It's what we want to do anyways,
and
then maybe we can make some money on top of.
Yeah, and additionally, you know, Serina's more of the green thumb. I'm more of the labor. So
I'm the brains, he's the bronze.
Yeah, and so hopefully it's kind of like more of a job for Serina. You know, like if I did have to be away.
The farm needs to be built so that it's not dependent on Ian. The farm building is very dependent on Ian.
Yeah.
Building up all the infrastructure and everything is, you know, just too much work for just me to do, and also outside of my skill set. But the farm itself needs to be set up so if Ian's not here, it doesn't fall apart. It needs to be able to just be done by me. And the physicality of the farming is something that is not going to be an issue for me to do.
Yeah.
Like, I can bend over and pick stuff, and
you can do that a lot better than I can.
we have a pretty unique financial situation. Probably the only reason why we're able to be doing the homesteading thing like we are is because of Ian's work. If it wasn't for all the economic risks that we're taking by having Ian being the only income and it being out of town and seasonal and all those things, I don't think that we would be living this type of life.
Yeah.
And I know I always find it super interesting when I see other people talk about how they fund their homesteads.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Maybe you'll find this video interesting. A little glimpse into our weird, unique lives.
Yeah.
But we definitely feel like blessed and lucky. You know, I get to do work that I really enjoy, and then I come home and I get to spend time with my whole family without time constraints. And you know, we've been relatively lucky to not have to worry about money. You know, even when money's tighter, we've always been able to scale back our spending a bunch so that, you know, we still are able to spend that time together, which is, you know, super important. So it's kind of like, you know, life is always good, right? From my perspective, like, I know anytime.
I agree. I agree that life's pretty good.
Yeah. So what we are getting at is that next year is going to be a super cool year on this farm. Tons of projects. You should definitely subscribe and ring that bell so you actually get notifications. Check out our journey there next year. It's going to be really interesting, I think.
We hope.
Yeah, we hope. We're going to put a lot of effort into doing the things that we want to do, and we're going to put a lot of effort into filming it while we do it. So, you know, hopefully you enjoy our videos and you enjoy our unedited versions of ourselves. You know, we kind of just we try to be ourselves on camera. So hopefully you guys enjoy that, and check us out next time. Bye bye.
That's weird.
Love you.
Are you gonna turn it off?